Hey guys, it's me, Harry, and I really just want to thank you so much for listening to today's episode of Duskbowl. It's a fun one, and I'm sure you're going to get a kick out of it. Before we get started though, I just have a small request. Could you please remember to hit that like button just before we go ahead. Sometimes we only get 1 or 2 likes on these videos, which is fine, but there are 235 of us, and I'm thankful for every single one of you. And if I can just get each of you to hit that like button, that'll help push Duskbowl up in the YouTube algorithm, and that'll really help the channel grow. It'll help Duskbowl in more ways than I can imagine. So please, before we start today, please remember to hit that like button. Again, thank you all so much for subscribing and just helping me make Duskbowl. It really is a dream for me. And yeah, hit the like button and enjoy the episode. Have a good one, guys.
I spent most of that day rubbing my temples. My head was throbbing, the kind of headache you don't just shake. So far, my investigation, if that's what we're calling it, hadn't yielded a lot of results. Sure, I felt like I was making progress, but all I really had now was a name and a place. Companist and Garrett Hall. I figured that anything to do with the Lady of the Lake would have had to happen around Lake Kingshot, and anything around Lake Kingshot backed onto the Neverwood. So I doubted I'd find much. But I thought that the best people to ask would be the Neverwood Exploration Club, N.E.C for short. But it felt like a stretch. After all, they couldn't be much more than just average guys who liked bushwalking. Although there had to be some reason that they kept getting arrested. All I could do was hope that it wasn't due to something too criminal, like gangs, drugs, or some crap. But here's the thing. Regardless of the reason, it was clear that the police had a close eye on them. So whatever I did, I had to be careful. I waited until night before I headed out. I tried to look as casual as possible, but still had my hoodie covering my face as I made my way to Garrett Hall. The way there was poorly lit. The streetlights had to be at least a decade out of date. But then, I suppose Duskbowl isn't exactly the kind of town where you go out at night, so the council probably thought that no one would notice or care if they skimped out on them. There were a few sheets of paper blowing down the road next to me. I could only assume that they were letters or something from the flower board. It made me think. How many hundreds of people had gone missing in Duskbowl's long history? Was there ever anyone else that, when looking for them, the same way I'd gone looking for Marshall? If they had, what happened to them? Did they find their person? If they had, why hadn't I heard of them yet? And if no one had gone looking, that just goes to show how hopeless this damn town is. I tell you what, once I found Marshall, I wasn't going to step foot in this place ever again. I could go back to the city, I said to myself. I thought that maybe I was ready to, but with that thought came back all the memories. I winced. No, not yet. Garrett Hall was at the end of the street on my right-hand side. It wasn't the prettiest building. Small, large windows and 2 alleyways on either side, both of which looking dingy enough to be where Batman's parents got killed. Across the road from Garrett Hall, though, was a cop car, barely hidden under a tree. I quickly ducked into one of the alleyways before it saw me. Damn, I thought. These guys just won't let up. I rubbed my forehead again as a shot of pain fired through it. Damn headaches. I think they're getting worse. I looked up and down the alleyway, trying to find anything that could lead me to the N.E.C, a flyer, anything. There didn't seem to be any way into Garrett Hall without being in direct view of the cop car either. After a little bit of searching, I saw a man at the mouth of the alleyway. He too was wearing a hoodie and was clearly trying very hard to look as unnoticeable as possible. Jesus, did I look like that? Seeing very few options, I decided to take the chance and ask if he knew the N.E.C. But hold on, I wasn't the most up-to-date with the news. Was it even legal to talk about the N.E.C. anymore? It was the kind of question more fitting of Lenin's Russia than a country town, you may think. But from what I had heard, The sheriff's department was getting closer and closer to a policy of by any means necessary. So I approached the subject in the most casual way that I could. But let me tell you, I don't really do casual. I walked up to him, rested my hand on the wall, and tried a confident, "Hey." I was trying to sound cool and calm, but he looked at me like I was the world's worst hooker. I tried to save it. "So, you like hiking?" At first he went to leave, but then I think he caught on to my cryptic little opener. He looked me up and down, I think noticing that I was clearly not a cop, but he was still unsure.
That depends. Where?
He was certainly cautious. Woods, mostly.
Well, duh. Where else do you go hiking? I meant specifically.
Was this a trick? Something to get myself caught? I looked behind me to see how much space I had to run if this bit me in the arse. I took a deep breath and said, more like a question than an answer, "Companyist?" His face turned white as a sheet. He grabbed me by the scruff of my hoodie and threw me against the wall hurriedly.
Where did you hear that name?
His face now close enough that I could see his green eyes and bushy beard. I scrambled for words, eventually just blurting out, "Lady of the Lake!" He eased off a bit, but kept his grip.
Why? Why are you looking into this?
I hadn't said the words out loud yet. It hurt a little when I did. I lost someone. The man let go. He took a step back and rested against the opposing wall. He sighed in an understanding sort of way.
Who?
He finally asked. Marshall. I think I said it more to myself than the crazed, bearded man, but still he chuckled a little.
The radio guy?
I nodded. He chuckled again.
Man, that guy was an arsehole.
So I cut him off with a glare.
Sorry.
He looked down at his feet. Who did you lose? I asked back. He avoided the question. He sank down and sat, gesturing for me to do the same.
You know something? There are buckets of cold piss that are better than this town.
I laughed a little. Something I don't think I'd done in a few months. Yeah, tell me about it, I said. You with the Neverwood Exploration Club? I asked. It took him a while to respond. He looked like he was listening out for something.
I'm not exactly a ranking member, no. I'm only new. But it's a nice idea for a group.
A nice idea? What did he mean by that? I asked him, only for him to say,
They're willing to do what Bradshaw's goons aren't. They're trying to find those we've lost.
There was a desperate hopefulness in his voice. I couldn't help but feel a little inspired. And did you? He gave me a confused look.
Did we what?
Did you ever find anyone? A silence fell between us. Changing the subject, I finally asked him my big question. Well, in your searches, did you ever come across something called a companyist? The man shifted in his seat. He was clearly made uncomfortable by that.
I did.
He trailed off a little, but caught himself and continued.
But that's not a thing. It's a place.
A place? I asked. The man was getting more and more uncomfortable.
Yeah, a place. An old asylum-looking thing deep, deep in the Neverwood. We only saw it once.
I went to say something else, but he cut me off.
You didn't get followed by any cops, did you?
What? No, of course not, I said. I mean, there was this cop car, but it's just parked across the road, and the man shot up.
What?
I tried to calm him down. What is it? What's wrong? Suddenly, he grabbed me by the shoulders and shook me. My heart began to pound.
Did you actually see them sitting in the car?
I was lost for words. I don't... Suddenly, another man's voice cut through the night. It was deeper and had a tone of smugness to it.
Good evening, Damien. What brings you around these parts, boy?
Fuck!
Damien hissed. Damien turned on his heels and bolted for the other end of the alleyway. I followed close behind. I could hear the heavy clip-clops of the officer's boots on the concrete as he took chase.
Keep running!
Damien shouted.
Keep running!
We almost made it to the end of the alleyway, but in a flash another cop came out from behind a wall and punched Damien in the face. He fell to the ground in a heap, his head making a sickening crack as it hit the concrete, but I couldn't stop for him. I tried to hop past his what I hoped was unconscious body and tried to weave past the officer, only to be met by the same fist that got Damien. It didn't knock me out, though. I was flung back by the impact. My world was spinning. I saw stars. I could barely breathe. I was winded. My body only drew shallow, calmed breaths. I tried to get up and run for the other opening to the alleyway, but a boot came down hard on my back and planted me in place. I fought, though, flailing angrily, desperately. No! I croaked. An arm snaked around my throat and tightened into a sleeper hold. The last things I saw as my world went black were my hands desperately reaching out for the exit to that alleyway. And all I heard was my own voice getting farther and farther away.
G'day guys, thank you so much for listening to that episode of Duskbowl. Remember, you can support us on Patreon or just by liking and sharing the video. Remember, if you have some fan art, we absolutely want to see it. Send it through to us at duskbowl.fm@gmail.com. That's duskbowl.fm@gmail.com, and we'll show it on our Instagram page, and we'll show it in the next Duskbowl episode. Seriously, you guys are our community, you guys are my community, and I want to show off the fantastic creations that you guys can make. Hell, throw together a fanfic and send it through to us. We might even show it on the channel as well. We love seeing what you guys create. The Duskbowl music is by the absolutely fantastic Samuel Burke. Please remember to go check out his channel, it'll be linked in the description. Ash is played by Caroline Fester, and Damien is played by N.E.C Sleeper. And of course, we can't forget our patron, Skulk Queen. Please, if you see her in the comments, say g'day. As always, thank you so much for listening, and please have a good one.